and welcome to the first installment of the Ramada Inn and Suites Vancouver Storyteller series. My name is Carl Ehrlich. I'll be your host for the evening. And the story I want to tell tonight is the story of my bracelet that I have on my wrist. When I look at this bracelet, what I think about are the two other people that are wearing it. The two other people that have this bracelet are my mother, who needs no introduction, and Rex, who's a local staff member in Fiji with Rustic Pathways, and really someone who I consider one of my best friends on earth. I'll start the story with Rex because Rex is just such a compelling character to me, and it's a good jumping off point for the story. One of my first days in Fiji, we spent at the Rustic Pathways base in Nandi, and it was just a great introduction to the people there. I came in, and it was all smiles and giggles. It was a friendly rugby game, kava circle, acoustic guitar, a real red carpet treatment as I came to Fiji. And that night, at our base house, the water had been turned off for some reason. And I was in the room with Rex, and we looked at the faucet, which was turned off, and immediately in my mind, I said, "Oh, we got to go figure out how to turn the faucet back on." And Rex said, "No." So I said, "This is how a lot of Fijians talk from the city." So, I think it's okay." And he leaves the room, and he comes back 10 minutes later with his legs a little scraped up, and he has 2 coconuts in his hand that he breaks open, and we drink the coconut milk. And so that was like a perfect microcosm for how my different perspectives on the world is that I saw a broken faucet and I thought, we have to fix the piping, and Rex saw a broken faucet and thought, I know where we can get something to drink. And that just blew me away. Amongst other things, just blew me away. So I called my mother, the other main character in this story, and I called my mother, and I told her about this, and she seemed interested in it, but she also seemed concerned that I love Fiji so much that she was a little bit concerned I wasn't going to come home. So my mom, being the intelligent woman that she is and wanting her babies back home, she bought a plane ticket to Fiji for the end of my summer, ostensibly so that we could spend our birthday together, but really I think it was to watch me get on the plane to make sure I was going to come back to the United States. So, fast forward 3 months from that first night with Rex, and I still love Fiji, even more than I did before. I've spent most of my time in the village in Nisivikoso, which is a mountainous village in the center of Fiji, probably not the traditional island beach Fiji that people imagine. And I love Nisivikoso. It's tough to adjust. I'll be honest, it's tough to adjust. Because it's not that typical tourist experience at all. You're bathing in a river. There's no electricity. There's a lot less stimuli than I'm used to in your life, and there's also a cultural barrier, language barrier, and so it was a little bit of an adjustment process, but the people just made it all worth it. So 3 months later, my mom comes. And she gets there, and I'm thinking, I've been in the village the whole summer, so I'm thinking, oh, this is my time to have that resort-type Fiji experience. And that wasn't really what my mom wanted. But when I picked my mom up from the airport, and I said, Mom, come on, we're going to go to this resort, and we're going to go, snorkeling and sitting around in hammocks and lying around on the beach for a couple days. So she went along with that. But as we went to the port to get a boat to the resort, and she saw a Hard Rock Cafe restaurant. And she said, I really want to have that authentic Fiji experience. It's nice we can go to a resort, and it's nice that there are restaurants like this for people, but I'm looking for the authentic, the real thing, I'm sorry, Mom, to put you on blast a little bit, but my mom was looking for the real thing. So I said, all right, we'll go to the resort, spend a couple of days, and then we're going to get the real thing. We'll see the real Fiji. So we get to the resort, and it's a little bit weird. It's weird when you go from living in a village and kind of starting to consider yourself one of the people, and then going back from being behind a counter from someone, or separated by a counter, and then being treated like a tourist again. And, you try to say things like, "Oh, Bulavinaka, Sakurda," in like little local terms that you use to show that somehow I'm different, right? I'm not a tourist. I've been here for a few months. But it's a good reminder that I was a tourist, And so my mother and I did the tourist thing for a while, but after a couple of days, she wanted to go up to the village. So I rented a 4x4, and we got supplies for staying up there for my birthday dinner. And Rex and a couple buddies piled in the car, and we drove up to the village. And when we got to the village, it was just the village. It was my last trip up to the village before I was leaving, but it was also the most unique trip that I made to the village, because it was the first time that it was just Nasivikoso as Nasivikoso. There were no homestay meetings. There was no itinerary. There was no one preparing meals for the group. It was just the village. And I think that sometimes on our trips, they're awesome immersion experiences, but sometimes on our trips, what we're seeing is the village, but we're also seeing the village plus 12 Rustic Pathway students that are coming in through the homestays. And this was the first time when alongside my mother, we were the only foreigners. We were the only people from outside the village. And that was what my mom was looking for. So I thought, that's perfect. So we came into the village. I introduced my real mother to my village nene, who was my village mother, had been taking care of me all summer, which was kind of a funny mix of the two worlds. The village nene did my laundry, my mother. No, just saying. And we get there, and Rex pulls me aside and said, "Hey, we're going to go to the farm and get some food for tonight and pick up some firewood. You want to come?" And so I said, "Mom, I'm going to go to the farm. Do you want to come along, or do you want to hang with the women in the village?" And my mother, in a decision I think she may later regret, said she's going to stay in the village. So Rex and I went off to the farm, and I love going to the farm. Going to the farm in the village is the best thing for me. And when I say the best thing for me, I don't mean the best thing for the people I'm going to the farm with, because I'm a child at the farm. I'm useless. I've never worked in that capacity before. So while these guys are going around just ripping out cassava and cutting off the roots and organizing things here and here, moving things there, I'm just clueless, but looking around. And it's a good experience for me. It's a humbling experience. So we go to the farm. It's my last big trip to the farm, hanging with the guys a little bit. And when I get back to the village, I see my mom, and she doesn't look totally comfortable. She looks somehow uncomfortable, I'd say. And so I say, "Hey, Mom, let's go for a walk." And we went for a nice walk to see the school site, the school we've been building in the City Coso. And I said, "What's on your mind?" And she said, "I know that I had asked for this, but it's funny when you're really in the middle of the village and you're looking for, you get that immersion, that authentic experience that you've been looking for. It's weird. It makes me feel a little weird, because there's this language barrier and there's a cultural barrier. And while everyone has been incredibly welcoming and warm, there's still something that makes me feel uncomfortable, or like I don't belong. A lot of the things that I've been feeling throughout the summer, but there was something, because of my experiences, there was something throughout my experiences that that I wanted to share with my mom. There's something past that barrier that's hard to get to, but it was something. So I said, "Ma, it's all right. This is like, I felt the same way." We took a nice walk and we talked about it, and then went back to the village. And so that night, it was my birthday dinner, and it was my time to be uncomfortable. I just don't do well in settings like that. It was an awesome experience. It was really cool. I went in Fijian tradition, they bring your uncle, So the brother of your mother is the person who delegates the birthday ceremony. So the brother of my village, Nene, came over from the neighboring village, and they all dressed me up in the traditional Fijian birthday garb, in what made for an awesome photo opportunity, but also it was a little uncomfortable. Like, you know that moment in the middle of the birthday song when they're bringing the cake out and they start singing the birthday song to you, and they put the cake down, but it's like a little uncomfortable because you're the center of attention. And that's what I was just stuck in that moment. I was wearing this Fijian dress, and there were maybe like 40 people from the village that come into this tiny bure to sit and watch, stare at me. It made me super uncomfortable. It just made me super uncomfortable. I'm sorry. So we get through the dinner, and it's the last night, and it's really emotional time, and I'm thinking about how I'm going to say goodbye to people, if I'm giving people the proper goodbyes, and most importantly, just processing that whole trip in my head and what I've taken from it and what I've learned from it. And I see my mom is trying to do the same. That this is very powerful experience, a unique experience, and it's hard to process it all and to distill it all into what you're going to take away. What's the one piece of that culture you're going to take home with you. So that night, kind of as a means of processing all this, we went out to the field, my mother and Rex and I. My mom, meanwhile, is calling Rex's son at this point in the trip, and Rex is calling her mom. And so we sit out, and we're on the roof of the truck, and we're staring up at the stars, and my mom, who's an earth science teacher, is teaching Rex and I about, some facts about the moons and shooting stars. It's quiet for a minute, and Rex turns to my mom, and he says, "Mom, you are most welcome to my village and to my clan, and most warmly to my heart." And he delivers this line in such a powerful way. It's such an emotional line that I don't know if I could ever say that, share myself with someone like that. But the way Rex did that, the way Rex really spoke from his heart with my mother, who he had just met, that was kind of the moment. That was like the culminating moment for me. When I saw how he was dealing with others and how he was speaking to my mom. And that was the thing that I wanted to take away from Fiji, is that nature. And so when I look at my bracelet, I'll be honest, most days it's just a bracelet, just something I wear on my wrist. But when I really take a moment like now to think about it, to think about Rex and all the people I met in Fiji and the lessons I learned and how Rex's behavior kind of tied everything together for my mother and him and I look at the bracelet and I think about what parts of that I can embody in my everyday life, or how I can add that kind of Fijian spice to my life. So I wear it as a reminder of a great trip and a great few people and few moments that we've shared, and how I can take that lesson and that experience from abroad and put it into action in my everyday life.